Hi, I'm Josie Fire. I'm a relationship coach, and I'd like to talk to you about. This is my very first YouTube video ever, and I'm super nervous. This is my review on Jennette McCurdy's book, I'm Glad My Mom Died. So, her mom was the best mom ever. Just kidding, she was the worst. It was gross, 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 horrific. Basically, her mom pushed her into acting at a super young age, like 6 years old. She was not interested. She stole all her money, even though she was supposed to be saving 15% legally in a Corbin account, which to me that's super, super minimum. Her mom was extremely emotionally abusive and manipulative. She was a hoarder. She would throw dishes and then save the pieces in a zip bag. And so the only place that there was for Jennette and her brothers to sleep was in the middle of the floor, in the living room, on mats, and they would also eat there in the same spot with they had a little fold out thing that they would use as a table. It just makes you want to scoop Jennette up and little Jennette up and take her away from the crazy peoples and also scream at her grandpa and her dad and her grandma, what were you guys doing? There were lots of other adults in that house and nobody was standing up for her. One of her first auditions, the person doing the auditions comes out and asks her, "Do you want to be an actor?" And her mom says, "Yes, she does." And the person looks at Jennette and looks really sad and says, "Good luck." And it's just the beginning of the end, basically. And I'm guessing this guy has seen that a bunch. The main yucky thing I feel like is anytime Jennette expressed a desire to do something or that she was interested in something that was anything different than what her mom wanted her to do, basically they were super enmeshed. Her mom would punish her by getting upset and then be super happy when she'd do what she wanted. One illustration of this is Jennette when they were driving. Her mom was driving and Jennette was in the back seat. And Jennette said, "Mom, I don't want to act anymore." And her mom started driving like a maniac, making her not feel safe, which is actually a typical domestic abuse tactic. If you make me not happy, then you're not safe. And as soon as Jennette said, "Oh, I'm just kidding, like I want to act," then her mom started driving normal and was so happy and put on her favorite song and said, "Let's sing together." And they were singing together to Jennette's mom's favorite song. And that seems like that's pretty typical of her behavior. Jennette had a couple of decades of this. She also sexually abused her. She would, to me, it seems like this was more of a power move or something. I don't know. I also think Jennette also commented that her grandma also seemed to enjoy making people upset, and I think her mom had some of that and enjoyed having control. And so she would shower Jennette with her brother until they were like 16 or 17, and she gave her breast exams and vaginal exams. And also, when Jennette started to become older, like she was turning into an adult body, and she was afraid, like, I'm not going to get these kid acting roles, her mom taught her about calorie restriction and was super, you know, rewarding and effusive when Jennette would not eat very much. And it was like their little secret of how, dieting together, which caused a heck ton of harm and was really difficult for Jennette to recover from. And it's still something that she struggles with, even though she's in a much, much healthier spot. So things that I loved about this book, even though it's such a horrific situation, it made my heart happy to read it because you get to see her growing up around standing up for herself and that she knows that the things that matter to her, if she doesn't want to do something, then it's not okay. And not just in with her mom and with acting and healing around anorexia and bulimia, but also in her other relationships that she gets stronger and stronger. And if I don't want it, then it's not okay. It doesn't need to happen. And also she now knows like she loves writing. And so reading the book, and she's a great writer and it's so funny. And it's just a great read because it's also a healing act for her and she's getting to write. And I hope she writes another one that details more about what recovery was like for her because I think that would be very helpful. Also, Jennette is brave and honest and funny. even in the midst of all the nastiness. So, things I hated. I hate Jennette's grandpa. And why, you ask? He is one of the few people who cared about her, or acted like he cared about her, showed a modicum of kindness towards her. Um, but he and her dad both were completely spineless. Like, you know that they were in the presence of all this manipulation and abuse and taking advantage of her and using her to support their whole family. And they did not stand up for her. They didn't protect her from any of it. And I feel like, just like being an accomplice in a robbery or a murder scene, you're driving the car, you're an accomplice, and it's really upsetting. Um, Also, this doesn't have to do with the book, but I've watched a few interviews with her, and frequently people don't like the title or it makes them uncomfortable. And so, maybe as an attempt to like disassociate themselves or from the book, some of her interviewers say things like, I have a great relationship with my mom, which is like, that's like saying to somebody that's blind, now I've been able to see my whole life. Well, why would you say that? Why would you say to somebody, you know, I understand they're saying it's difficult for them to relate, but it seems a little callous unless you're wording it that way. Like, it's difficult for me to relate because I have not experienced what you have. And then that would be okay, but they don't word it like that. The other thing that is stressful to me about reading this book is that most of the harm that she goes through is being manipulated and shut down, and all of that is invisible. And people don't even want to believe her, even when it's so obvious that she was abused. They want to think that something that bad could not be that real. But if her mom didn't steal her money and shower her and break things, like the things that are obviously um, gross and disturbing, then nobody would take her seriously about all the manipulation and harm and damage that was caused to her. And that's a super frustrating thing about our culture, is that we don't take emotional abuse seriously, and there's a lot of emotional abuse in this book. So I give this book 5 stars. I think everyone should read this book, unless you're currently still recovering from eating disorders, or you still have whiplash from getting out of an abusive relationship. Then maybe wait a little while. But very educational, very funny. So proud of Jennette. 3 important takeaways, I would say: live for your kids, not through your kids. Any sport or activity that they're doing, it should be for their benefit, not for your benefit, unless it's jujitsu, and that's for my benefit. I would say speak up if you're in the presence of harm. You're responsible for allowing things to happen. So don't be spineless. Stand up, even if the person being abusive is entitled and scary, which they probably are. And the third I would say is listen to yourself, which is what Jennette learns to do, and makes me really happy. It's a happy ending. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.